who kept the 3 horseshoes at this end?
This end was One-Eyed Harriet.
Oh, yes.
You remember?
Tremendous character. Yes.
She was.
Yes.
Mind you, we didn't go into pubs then, the vicar's daughter and everything,
no.
and so I can't tell you any of the funny stories about the pub.
And then going straight along the village, there was a village hall.
Original one.
It was the Institute, and it wasn't Nissen huts, but it wasn't much better.
No, it was. You're right. It was a sort of
First World
shed-like.
War Army sheds, I believe. Yes. With a ceiling which didn't always keep the rain out.
The local wardens used to congregate there once a week or twice a week with the band saying, what do the band say?
The fire warden, air raid warden.
Air raid wardens, yes. And I remember it talked about Fritz. Well, we put one of these collars on Fritz and opened the door and let it in when they were having a meeting. I think there was few irate people.
And going along from there, on that side, is where Granny Missen lived.
Yes.
And as far as the drift.
Yes.
And then on the other side, there were council houses, and Mrs. Thompson lived there.
Yes, she did. You're right, because she had.
Thompson.
Yes, she had one of the evacuees.
May, thank you, May.
And Peter Jeeves, his family.
Peter Jeeves' family lived there. Well, the other Missons lived down Pettis Lane.
Yes, they did. The coalman.
The coalman. Yes.
He had a van.
Yes. We lived down Pettis Lane later on.
Harriet's.
Yes.
And of course it was Honey Hill.
Honey Hill. And that was about it.
Yes. And the 2 cottages on the corner.
Yes.
And of course then on the right there was Miss Thompson.
House, which I understand had been the Queen's Head, was it?
Yes, it was a pub at one time.
Before our time.
Yes, long before.
Yes. It was a lovely big house.
Yes.
And Reg had the little cottage next door to it.
Was joined to it, yes, this end.
Yes. But the bungalows on the side, they're all new.
Oh, yes.
As you go into Pettis Lane.
Yes. And
then coming back along the high street.
There was just the post office, the brick house that's still there.
Oh, yes, because that was post office before you got to right round the corner when it was in the centre.
Violet Thompson, when it was, yes.
Yes, I'd forgotten.
The post office was there first.
Yes.
And a little bit of a shop.
That's right.
Of course, Granny Missen also used to sell cupcakes.
Oh, did she?
Yes.
I love it.
And 1 or 2 small things she used to sell. They had a van once a week used to come.
The family who lived next door to the pub began with a B, but I don't remember what.
Backhouses.
Backhouse, yes. They were there for a time, weren't they?
They were in Proctor's farm.
Proctor's farm, yes. Yes, I've forgotten that. Yes. And none of Cotton Fields were built, only what was the house where Miss Silk lived.
Oh, Miss Silk, oh yes.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Will you come and do my chimney for me? Will you come and clean the chimney?
Yes.
And Leah would have to get the brushes and go and...
I know, and then Arthur did it and I'd done it too.
Yes, with your hands.
Well. She'd been a lady who'd done a lot of handwork, I believe.
Well, her father was a tailor.
He was a tailor, as his name implies.
Yes.
And she wasn't used to ordinary tasks like
the
rest of us. But there were no other houses except those. Then, coming back this way, there was nothing until you got to the corner. Going down the hill where you get the bus stop, that close was built when we came. Oak Crescent. Yes.
Oak Crescent was definitely after the war.
Yes, and then round the corner was old Mrs. Markham.
Who else? There were 4 cottages there.
4 cottages, and I believe there were 4 Markham sisters, and they married 3 Ingle brothers.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Then you got to the turning to the school.
Yes.
And there was the pub.
And the house, but the house first before the pub.
Yes, then the Black Horse. And then the schoolhouse and the school.
Yes.
Which was very small.
The outdoor toilets.
The outdoor toilets, yes. You had to run 50 yards across to the toilet if you wanted to go from school.
Yes.
I remember. Just the playground and the toilets at this end. And the schoolhouse and just the one big room.
Yes.
Did that divide in half?
I think it did divide, yes.
It had a screen
Yes.
which you could pull across,
With
like a lot of schools in those days.
With a stove that had to be lit in the morning.
Yes. Oh, it did have two, because I remember Mrs. Mascrow being at one end as a teacher.
Yes, yes, and Mrs. Jordan the other end.
Yes. But before that, Mrs. Spurgeon. But where John Kingsmill and the other house are now, there was nothing.
No.
And then you got round to Warrington's farm, and there was nothing much in between, was there?
No, Chapel and Warrington's farm, those two there were the only things there.
Yes.
Opposite, of course, there was Speechley's, well,
Speechley's, View Farm, was it? A big house. And there's some little cottages behind that which were thatched. Which led down to
Duck End.
Duck End. I don't remember any other houses except the Speechley's.
Duck End, there was a house, a farmhouse.
Yes, but not between Speechley's and the park. There was nothing.
No.
On the front. And then you went down Duck End, and there was these two
The Fensons who lived in the farm there.
Oh, yes, yes. And after that, of course, was the old chapel.
Yes.
Which had been, I'm not sure what denomination
Well, it was just, it was empty, wasn't it? I mean, it was just a store.
It was empty and used as a store.
It's been renovated now.
Yes.
And then there were some more cottages.
Then there were some more cottages
Where
which were then pulled down, and they
which the Bullens lived.
The
there.
Bullens lived,
Yes.
didn't they? Yes. Oh goodness. Then of course you came to the water. Earlier on, Arthur told me this, that the little square pond opposite the end of Duck End,
Yes.
on the road to Madingley,
Yes.
was used for the steam engines when they were steam ploughs to
Oh.
get their water from, to fill them up so that they could make their steam.
How interesting. That's why it was such a deep sort of...
A deep sort of reservoir.
Well, yes.
Yes. Yes. Then, of course, coming back to the village, there was just the church. Nothing in the park at all. And then the two cottages next to the church, which have now been made into one house, haven't they? Or,
Yes, they have, yes.
Two cottages.
And who lived there? The Impies lived there, didn't
Some
they?
of the Impies lived there, yes.
In one half.
And coming back up the village, going out towards
Scotland Farm.
Scotland Farm. Then you get to the bits, there was nothing at Fithian's. There was nothing there.
No.
There was nothing...
there was just Paradise Cottages.
Paradise Cottages, where
4
now
of them.
the Atkins live. It was John and Pat
Walker. Yes.
who
Demolished them.
Arthur and I helped pull those down.
Yes.
And I gather you had the photograph of my two daughters on the top of the roof when they were very small.
Yes.
We slid the slates down long ladders to preserve them,
Yes.
rather than to lose all those slates, because they were handmade slates which were quite valuable. And
Yes.
I think they were able to sell something like 1,400 of them. Between us,
Wonderful.
we saved that amount by sliding
I
them
know,
down doors
I know.
on top of ladders.
It was sad, in a way, sad
Yes,
they
it
had
was
to go.
sad, had to go, but it really wasn't safe.
No.
Then you got back to the Black Gate,
Yes.
Vicarage, and that was it.
Yes.
Right round the village for you.